Hello, dear fellows. I'm Rudi Messiah. Welcome again to Heavy Talk. Did Chuck Schuldiner imagine our future in the song 1000 Eyes? When I did the interview with Nico Butcher of Mayhem, you can check that, he mentioned that we were talking about extreme metal, and he mentioned that Chuck Schuldiner always had, of course, more mature lyrics, and more intellectual lyrics than many of the other extreme metal bands. He was really different. And for me, that one thing that really made me love Death even more. And until now, it's my favorite extreme metal band. I have a whole episode about the importance of lyrics. You can watch that. But the man, Chuck, wasn't only ahead of his time musically, also lyrically. And when I was younger, in 1995, when I first heard Symbolic, actually the first album I heard for Death, I listened to Death, was Individual, maybe around after the release of Symbolic, maybe in 95 or 96, then I heard Symbolic. So the first two albums that I heard to Death were Individual and Symbolic, and until now they are my favorite two albums for the band. Though the first song I heard for Death was Chuck on It, the live version. It was maybe Metal Maniac, Metal Massacre, a live show in LA in 1989. You can find it on YouTube. And there's all these extreme metal bands that started in the late 80s, early 90s. Maybe it wasn't 1989, maybe it was early 90s. I don't remember. And he played Chuck on It. That was the first song I heard to Death. I didn't know who was the band because I had a compilation cassette, and this song just, was there. And there was no names on that cassette, nothing. I didn't know any of these bands at that time. One of them was Chuck on It. Anyway, I'm just talking my history with Death and the love, my love for this band. I have a whole episode about Human. You can watch that. I played my favorite riffs of that album. It's a great album too. I love it too. Anyway, what I want here, the irony of the song 1000 Eyes. Of course, Chuck didn't invent something from nothing or from scratch. A lot of people and writers and thinkers have imagined a future without any privacy, because based on the totalitarian regimes and dictatorship like the Soviet Union, and George Orwell is the main influence of all of that. And if you look at the cover of 1984, the cover of Symbolic, I mean, this is like Winston and Julia, Maybe the artists at that time imagined the cover from 1984. And maybe the album wasn't called Symbolic from the beginning. Maybe it was called 1000 Eyes, then it changed to Symbolic. If you look at on the different subject, but worth mentioning, I always thought that, I hope you tell me what you think, I always thought that the Seventh Son Iron Maiden album was originally called Moonchild. Because if you look at the cover, it's worth calling it Moonchild. There's the baby and there's the moon. But maybe along the course of creating the album, it was changed to Seventh Son, especially because it's the seventh album of Maiden. That's with the cover art thing, Anyway, 1000 Eyes is not my favorite song in the Symbolic album, though it's a great song, like all of the songs on the album. My favorite song was Without Judgment. My favorite song that really meant to me is Perennial Quest. When I wrote the first album of my band, the Hourglass, To the Land of the Free, one of the things that inspired me is this song, Zero Tolerance. Great song, great lyrics. Sacred Serenity, Empty Words. All of these songs have 10 over 10 music, 10 over 10 musicianship performance, 10 over 10 lyrics. 10 over 10 production. I mean, this album really is mind-blowing. But reading the lyrics now, in 2025 of 1000 Eyes, 20 years later, 30 years later, fuck man, I'm old. 30 years later, after the album, is the lyrics really will, you will see these lyrics in very different eyes. Crossing the line into the other side, emerging as prisoners to the emptiness of time. The first verse. There's always in the lyrics the idea of being imprisoned or enslaved. And if you think about it now, the world that we live in, this phone that I'm holding, this phone that I'm shooting this video in, and all the social media and all the texting apps and CCTV, the satellites, everything, we're monitored in every step in our life. You are trapped in a system that you really have zero privacy in. To the left and to the right, from behind, they are out of sight, plunging into a newfound age of advanced surveillance, a worldwide foolproof cage. Again, it's a global thing, it's imprisonment. And that is at the beginning of the internet. I mean, 1995, how old was the internet? 5 years, 6 years, I don't know. So having this vision is really impressive. The chorus, which is the most important thing, privacy and intimacy as we know it will be a memory. How accurate is that, huh? Among many to be passed down to those who never knew. I think what it means, the next generations, us in the future of, after 30 years of this, or the younger ones, like my nephew, my son, the younger people who never knew what will happen in the future. I don't know, that's how I saw this sentence. Living in the pupil of 1000 eyes. I mean, it explains itself, the pupil of 1000 eyes. How creative, putting it in that way. The bridge is, was it overlooked in front of all our faces? Now all the mistakes and secrets cannot be erased. Imagine the true fact that everything you're texting, your son. Now, when social media started, I was like 25, 30, something like this. My son, from the beginning of his teenage years, everything he types for his friends, all the internet calls, all his activities on Google or anywhere else, everything is recorded and everything cannot be erased. At least he doesn't have a choice in that. And for example, my son or your son, when he or your daughter, when she is 40 years old and she becomes the minister of natural resources in her own country, and there are several corporations and intelligence bodies that knows every single details, even before 13 or 15 when she had the social media, our messages, the parents' messages, and everything they say about her when she was 2 months old and 2 years old is recorded. And there's a whole fucking profile about her. Every step of the way, every time she cried because she didn't get the sandwich, every time she cried because you didn't buy her the Barbie she wants, everything your daughter did since the second she was born until she was 40 years old, when she's becoming a minister of power, for example, in her own country. She has no secrets. Her ultimate fear, like in 1984, the rats for Winston, at the end, he says, do it to Julia, do it to Julia. The funny thing is, my wife's name is Julia, so. Let's let's say the corporations, the intelligence, the CIA, whoever, they know everything about your daughter, my son. And that fear and those secrets and those weird sexual fantasies and all of these things that they are private. You know, there are people somewhere in certain corporation, there is data somewhere where all of this is recorded, and there are people who can know, who can dig into your life since you were born. Now all the mistakes and secrets cannot be erased. The verse 2, viewing the blind complexity by which laws were justified to erase simplicity. I can understand this verse as, look now how all the bills and laws are being, the new laws, they are justifying and giving power, for example, for AI companies to have control over all the database, over the internet. And it's always justified. And actually, we think our life now is much simpler because we have all this convenience because of technology. But in reality, it is very much complex. Our life is now, it's very much complex. It's the exact opposite of simplicity. We are enslaved now. This is the last words of the song. We are all enslaved now, or we are enslaved now. Just imagine when you were a teenager at school that somebody in your classroom knows everything about you. He blackmailed you. Because if you do this, if you don't do me this, I will tell everybody that you did that you said that you thought that. I will show everybody your picture when you did that, or when you were in your underwear, or... Isn't that enslavement? When you have no privacy at all? Tell me what you think. It's complicated. See you next time.